Welcome to Whachacha's Tabletop World, the channel devoted to the love of board gaming. My name is Sweetness Whachacha, and today we're doing a overview and review of Alice is Missing, which is a silent role-playing game. So this is a bit of an unusual one for me. I'm going to kind of mix my overview and review together because there's just a lot of thoughts about this, and there's it's really kind of a unique game, and it's going to, require a unique approach to talk about. So firstly, I have a background in role-playing. Like, I played D&D and stuff many, many years ago. And I also enjoy playing these sort of document dump mystery style games where there's like you're solving a mystery. Now, when I purchased this, I kind of thought that that's what I was getting more of, but that's not the case. Now, this is a game that is, we're used to having a DM or a game master, dungeon master, someone that like leads the game. And while there is someone that is kind of in charge of setting it up and relaying the rules to people, it isn't really like that. When you play a normal Dungeons and Dragons game or some other kind of role-playing game, the dungeon master or your game master is going to have an idea of what the story is. They're going to know, like, okay, well, and some people will be more detailed or less detailed, more flexible, less flexible. And so they're going to make it so that they know, eventually they've got to solve this mystery, or they got to fight this monster, there's a dragon, whatever the case may be. And commonly mystery games, you'll go through documents, you go through testimonies, you go through eyewitness accounts, whatever the case may be, and you'll arrive at the single answer. Now, this game is neither of those things. This game, you really can think of it as essentially prompts. You're creating a story, all of you together. There's no right answer there's never finding the intended answer of why Alice is missing. Okay, you're all kind of creating this story together. It almost feels more like, like an exercise, like a groupthink kind of project where you're all just, or improv. Improv really maybe is probably closer to it, where you're all kind of creating a story together. Now, I sort of buried the lead here, and I didn't talk about the most compelling or interesting part of this whole thing, and that is the fact that this game is played entirely over text messaging. So there's no interacting directly with any of the other players. Now, you can play this remotely. You do lose out on a little bit of some things. There are some things about it that some challenges to play it remotely. Now, from my personal experience, I played this with my nieces, and I'll get into why that maybe be a little problematic later. But this is a kind of game where you will, one of them was not with us, and so one niece and I were there, so I did have to kind of take some pictures and send them when a card was necessary to be read by the non-present person, so they could kind of like read through, and I wouldn't spoil it by also reading the information and relaying it. So let's take a little look at the components here so we can get a better idea of how these things work. Now, as I mentioned, you're not going to have a direct game master, but you will have someone that sort of it will introduce you to the role, to the game and stuff. And it's a pretty good little guide here. It gives you an overview, and you can read some of this. It'll tell you how to facilitate the game. That's a pretty important thing. And then it goes over some of the ground rules that you're going to want of the game, and it's going to explain how to set it up. There are some things that you do before you actually kind of start playing. So let's talk about those a little bit now. First, I talked about the fact that you're all creating this story together. The other thing that's different from like a Dungeons and Dragons or another role-playing type of game is, in those kind of games, you're like a hero, or maybe you're a villain or an anti-hero, but you're essentially, most people are going to they're going to fight, they're going to get treasure, they're going to get weapons, they're going to find stuff. Okay, this game is about a very dark subject. This is a teenage girl who goes missing. What happened to her? That's kind of up to your group to end up deciding through some of these prompts and things. But it is a very heavy situation. So ahead of time, you should spend some time talking about what is appropriate and inappropriate. And this is where the part where I said that my kind of misunderstanding of the game going in, I sort of grabbed it and was like, oh, this would be good to play with my nieces. I had kind of thought that out ahead of time, and I hadn't really read the rules and stuff. So when I did, I was like, oh, maybe this is a mistake, because the subject matter is very, very heavy. So you'll have to set up some parameters and say, okay, well, is sexual assault, is that something we can talk about? Kidnapping, of course, domestic abuse, any kind of violence. All of these things, really, you got to set the parameters and say, you know what, we don't want to get into this or that. Because it seems very hard to avoid those things, because this is a story, of course, about, a young girl going missing and she's had some foul play involved. So that, is in the lead up to this, it seems like very hard to avoid certain types of violence and assault, of course, of a sexual nature, or otherwise. And, these are sort of things that you have to kind of lay the groundwork for. Now, speaking of laying groundwork, when you start to play this, you're going to do you're going to do some things ahead of time. Number one, the website I will mention has a lot of, you can print out these missing persons posters, so you can kind of decide what you want Alice to look like. I think we printed these out before we really realized that we didn't need all of them. So you can kind of match to that person. Secondly, you will take your phone, which is essential, of course, and you will you're going to change your contacts. And that might seem kind of silly or unnecessary, but man, it is important for immersion. So you're going to change everybody's contacts to their character's name. We'll get that in just a moment. So you're going to have, once everybody picks their characters and stuff, you'll go into your contacts. It's kind of a pain in the butt a little bit, but when you're getting text from a certain person, that helps you with your immersion. Another thing you're going to do before you, really get playing is going to be to record a voicemail. And there are some prompts to help you with this, but you're going to record a voicemail, which is your last voicemail to Alice before she went missing. At the end of the game, there's sort of kind of like whatever, an exit interview. I can't think of the word I need right now, but essentially you're kind of cool, have a cool down. And part of this is going to be to listen to these messages that you sent to Alice. So everybody would go in the other room and record these, which is a pretty fascinating little thing and a very big thing to help in immersion. And then lastly, well, maybe not lastly, there's a bunch of stuff on the website, but you can go onto YouTube or whatever, and there's soundtrack to just sort of set the mood. And the soundtrack has a timer on it, which is going to become important for the gameplay. And so it's both useful for the gameplay, but also to create, as I say, that atmosphere. Okay, so let's look at some of this stuff. So initially, everybody's going to get a character. There's a listing, so you're going to be able to pick the characters. Now, without reading any of this too much, maybe just focus on the colors. So this character's name is Jack Briarwood. He's the older brother, so you're going to have your relationship to Alice. And then again, you shouldn't read this really, but just concentrate on the colors. This is your background, which is going to be open information for everybody. You're going to share that. You're going to have a secret, which is again, like just a secret. And then on your voicemail, it's going to give you a prompt for what you might leave for the voicemail. So everybody's going to have something like this that you're going to start with. You can think of this as sort of starting your character, getting your character going. Because, it's not like common role-playing, you might roll up your character's strength and dexterity and attributes and their starting equipment. This you're sort of kind of like saying, hey, like, this is my name, this is my background, this is some connections to other characters. You're kind of building, building your character, maybe in a much quicker sense, maybe 10 or 15 minutes. You're also going to get one of these flame cards here, which is going to have a motive, maybe your motive for doing it, for doing something wrong or whatever, or for helping to find Alice, and then a relationship. So this is going to be a relationship with another character. Again, don't concentrate on reading it exactly, but you're going to have a relationship with another character. You're going to kind of pick multiple characters that you have, maybe something like, I'm not giving anything away, but, something like, you were jealous of somebody, or, maybe you felt threatened by the other character or something. So you're going to have a relationship with them so that when you're playing the game, it gives you a little bit of a direction to go in. Maybe you may have a little more hostile to a character, maybe a little more defensive when a character says something, or disbelieving, something like that. So it just gives you a little more to work with as you're texting. Again, I know I just kind of glossed over that a little bit, but I just want to reiterate, like, all of this is being texted, and not just on a main thread. You're going to be texting throughout the game, with a group text, but then also as asides. And that kind of helps to create, well, I'm going to talk to this person about this because I have a better relationship with this person. I don't trust these other people, or I'm not ready to tell the group yet. So it really is a very unique experience. This card, I honestly can't remember what it's for. I don't think it's too important. This is the debrief, which is that's the word I was looking for before. This is what you're going to read at the end and go over that. That's just going to help you to do that. There's a introduction. You'll read that and then pull the missing person poster, so you'll do that as well. That helps you with that. And then these are sort of like extra prompts. So if you ever run out of ideas, or you're not sure where the direction the story should go, and again, I'll flip this over, but it's going to be like different things, weird things that happen or whatever that you can use to help. You're out of ideas for a second. Oh, there's a bloody glove. Boom, go with that. So that's going to be just some things. We didn't use these in our game. I felt we were doing okay, but they are there, kind of like hints or whatever. Okay, so these are the main cards here. Okay, so in the beginning of the game, you're going to reveal these. Okay, and they're going to be different suspects, right? And then everybody's going to go and tell you a little bit about each of these. So there's no real turn order or whatever. I might say, okay, I'll go with this. I'll take Ryan Goggins, the ex-boyfriend, and I'll be like, oh, well, I saw Ryan Goggins. I'll just make something up, and I just say, and you're just talking this out. This is the talking segment where you're setting up the game. You'll kind of each pick one of these so that you have a little bit of information. Then throughout the game, this deck will be drawn from occasionally from these cards, and that'll help for your prompts as well. But I'll go into that more in a moment. So that's kind of what those are for. And then lastly, working in the same kind of way are the locations. So you might each take one of these as well. You can see I'm not showing you all of them because they're just repeats. So you'll each take one of these kind of like, and you can take more than one, doesn't really matter. Again, you're just sort of spitballing, for lack of a better word, the Dripping Dagger nightclub. Okay, well, I saw her. She used to go here every Tuesday. She didn't tell anybody. Okay, so you kind of, that's to help build the characters. Okay, so if it's been a little confusing how I describe this, I'll just give you a quick overview. You're going to get together. You're going to set your parameters. You're going to print out the posters, get the soundtrack up, and you're going to change all your contacts. Then you're going to take some of the people cards and your own motivations and stuff. You're going to develop some relationships with other people, spend 10 or 15 minutes, 20 minutes doing that. You're going to talk this out. Some of it you're going to talk out, some of it you're not going to talk out. You're going to leave the voicemail, and you're going to kind of get an idea of how you're going to go. Then once you have that idea, you're going to all start the game. And when you start the game, you're basically going to, each of you get one of these cards. And as you can see, this should be like this. So 60 minutes, 80 minutes, 70 minutes. So the game is going to be a 90-minute game. It's timed, basically. So you're going to give this to Charlie Barnes. That character is sort of the facilitator. When you turn it over, it's going to tell you some prompts and things. It always starts with the same. And then, you're going to notice there's, 3 cards for 80, 3 cards for 70. So there's often 3 cards for each of these. Some of them, when you get down to the nitty gritty, 35, 30, there's not as many sometimes. But you're going to kind of like only have 180, and you're going to distribute these to people. Doesn't really matter. Some people are going to have an uneven amount of them. No big deal. But essentially, when you are looking at the timer, the 80 minute, 10 minutes in, 80 minutes strikes. Okay, now you're going to read this, and it's some new information, a new prompt. So you can see that, of course, you could play this quite a lot. In the mix of different prompts, there are always going to be difference. You always have a different 80 card and a different 70 card and so forth. So sometimes it'll just be informational. You're going to get some information. Other times it'll instruct you it'll say, hey, something happened at this place. And you'll flip over and you say, okay, well, that happened at the Dripping nightclub. So you can see the variety here is pretty unending. I mean, because which prompt you got, and then which deck you draw from, and which card you end up pulling, that just creates a different prompt. Eventually you'll get to the 10-minute, and then this will get left on the table, and that's kind of like some major event or major revelation. Again, all of this is just, as I keep using the word prompt, I feel like a broken record, but all of this is just like helping to guide you to create the story. And you're just spending your time, you'll be texting back and forth about, your relationship with her, what you think might have happened. Somebody will get some new information via one of these cards every 10 minutes. And then they'll share it. They might share it with the group. They might share it with somebody on the side. And, that's just going to help you flesh out this story. When you're all done, you've got this hour and a half you spent, very depressing hour and a half, and you're going to have essentially a story. And you're going to have it in transcript. I mean, somebody can print these texts out, and you can have a whole transcript of this. So, that's the general way it works. You spend an hour and a half texting each other, using the prompts to create the story of what happened to Alice after some setup. So that's essentially the whole thing. Now, this is a very, very unique kind of experience. I mentioned with my nieces, this is not the best thing to play. I mean, they were, I should have mentioned their ages. They're they're teenagers, so it's you know, but it's a little weird, you know, like I'm their uncle playing this kind of a game with them. You know, their parents were in the room though, doing some other things, so that I think that eased it a little bit. But you got to be really careful because this is a very unique experience. Now, is this experience for everyone? It's very odd because, you know, playing like a Dungeons and Dragons game or a different kind of like Star Wars role playing or a superhero, that's you know, there's clearly a reason why you might want to take on that, do escapism, right? You're like, I'm going to take on the role of this wizard or this superhero or this, you know, Lovecraftian hunter type of, anything you pick, right? You're kind of living in that role. But do you want to live in this world? Do you want to live in this like really rough kind of world? It's a really unique thing. I think this is an experience. They obviously went through a lot of work of making something that was really organic and really unique, and they supported you on all levels with ways to immerse yourself. So this is a very immersive experience. They've done a lot of work to make it a really robust experience in that regard. I think that this is really going to depend on the type of person you are if you want to have this kind of experience, because it is a very intense, you know, kind of experience that you're having. You're stepping into this role of a real tragedy, and that's not something most people want to do. Now, for me personally, I don't really role play. I just really, I think it's amazing. I do think, now this is where I think this game really shines, is that to me, I personally believe that everyone that wants to write, you want to act, you want to do any kind of creative thing like theater or movies or anything you want to do that involves any kind of creativity, in terms of whether you're, you know, using just your voice or you're writing a book or you're acting out a part, whatever, you should role play, because it is invaluable what you are learning doing this. Your improv skills, your creative skills, you know, you're brainstorming all the time. You're working together with other people in a team type of situation. There's so many great skills with that. Now, there are some people like that aren't interested in that Dungeons and Dragons type of theme, and there are some people that want to work on things that are different. Maybe you want to write a crime show. Maybe you want to, you know, maybe you really want to get in, you're like Daniel Day-Lewis and you want to get into you really want to get into a part or something. I mean, this is an amazing for that, right? To be like, hey, look, I'm going to really flex my muscles. If I was like a writer or something, or I was like really involved in acting, I'd want to get analysis missing for like every possible scenario. I want to be like, look, let's all make a show together. Okay, let's get on the same page. We'll run Alice is Missing. We'll go in some dark places. We'll work on some stuff, and then afterwards we're gonna write a story, or we're gonna get in a mindset, and you can film me being the killer, or we're gonna do this play that has a twist and a darkness to it. So I really feel like, again, a very singular experience, really unique, very heavy, and probably pretty niche. You know, because you know, this is not for the crowd of. This is not for the crowd that is like you know, you're going to find the killer. You're deciding who the killer is. Tons of replayability here, although I'm not sure how often you would want to play this, but it definitely has a use, and it's very, very unique, and I'm sure that you've probably gathered so far whether or not this is something for you. But yeah, really, really cool. I really commend them for this really immersive, unique experience that may or may not be for you. So thanks for watching, and for now, I gotta roll.